Hey everybody, welcome back to New Little Life. Today we're going to be talking about the 5 biggest mistakes that working moms make. All right, so I'm a lactation consultant and a breast pump expert and a mom of 3. And on this channel, we are talking specifically to working moms. So we're going to do the 5 biggest things that I tend to see my students and other working moms do. Maybe this will help you avoid them and be well on your way to success. All right, here we go. If you're new to the channel, go ahead and subscribe. Click the notification bell to know when we put new videos out for working moms because we do it weekly and I would love to see you here again. Okay, let's jump in. The number 5 thing that working moms do that is a no-no is assuming that their work will be totally cool, right? So maybe your work really is supportive of pumping and breastfeeding, and that's awesome. I hope that they are. And when I went back to work with my work was supportive too. I worked in a school as a nurse. So they were like, totally. I had my own office. I'm like, this can be easy. I'm not the first female in this district to have a baby, so I can totally do this. My work was actually very supportive, but it was still really inconvenient, and I wasn't really expecting that. And it was just awkward. Kids were in my office when I needed to pump, or I had meetings that I was trying to juggle, for IEPs and all this school nonsense. I would get knocks on my door even when a sign was up. I was a nurse, and so people needed in there. I don't know. They were very supportive. I never really got any kickback from my employers, but it still was kind of inconvenient. And I wish I had had a better plan, a better just kind of known more of the logistics there. I had to store my milk in the community fridge, which was fine. I had to talk to my male principal about my boobs, which is always fun, right? Anyway, there just was a lot that went into going back to work that I wasn't really expecting. If your workplace is not supportive, then you have even more hurdles to overcome. But man, it can be really challenging going back to work, as many of you know. Number 4 mistake that working moms can make is not sticking to a pumping schedule. So depending on your job, it can be really hard. And some jobs accommodate you beautifully. But every time I talk to a nurse or a teacher or someone who works in a job that is really high movement, especially in jobs where you're serving and helping other people, they really struggle with this. I kind of get it. You have a job to do, and stepping away every couple hours for 30 minutes means that someone else is probably going to have to pick up your slack in that work, or you are going to miss work time and you're still going to be expected to complete that work. It can be really, really hard. And I know, I'm a nurse. I remember how difficult it was to leave patients when you had a job to do. It's really hard. If you're a teacher, you have students. But even if you're in your own office, you're still going to have to get that work done. You're still juggling it around meetings. So sticking to a schedule, obviously, you have to do that. If you don't stick to your pump schedule, your milk supply will suffer. It just will. It's a simple supply and demand cycle, okay? But you also have to take into account your emotional state and stress level because those can affect milk supply too. It's a lot going on, all right? You have to stick to a schedule, but what does your schedule even look like? When are you supposed to be pumping? I know there's just so many questions. So this actually leads us really well into the number 3 mistake that working moms make, which is thinking it would be simple. I see this one a lot, actually. Well, I have my pump and my workplace is supportive. I found a schedule online, so I'm just going to slap my pump on and off to the races. And it's not quite that simple. And I did the same thing when I went back to work with my first. I was just like, you put the pump on and milk comes out. As long as I stick to my schedule, I should be fine, right? But there's a lot more that goes into pumping than just putting a pump on and sticking to a schedule. That usually works for a little while, a few weeks, maybe a couple months. But at some point, what I see is that moms usually start to have a decrease in their supply. So all of a sudden, they're not making enough for their baby during the day. It just comes down a little bit and a little bit, and they don't understand why this is happening, right? You're doing the things, right? There are just so many factors that go into making milk and to keeping up your milk supply sufficient for your baby's needs. And there's so many reasons, but we also haven't even talked about bottle feeding and pace feeding and prepping milk for daycare. Like that's all separate to your milk supply and stuff. It's a lot to juggle. You got to line everything up. And to make it even harder, everybody is unique. Everybody has a different work balance, schedules, meetings, whatever your work looks like. And y'all have different babies too. Some babies are eating a lot. Some are not eating a ton. Some of you have family watching your baby. Some of you have daycares with really strict guidelines on how they deal with breast milk and stuff. I get it. Everybody is really just in a different situation. So this is actually a really good spot in this video to tell you about our Pumping for Working Moms program. I specifically work with working moms who are trying to combine pumping and breastfeeding because that's a tricky place and there's not enough support for moms that are trying to do that. You can find tons of breastfeeding information online. You can find tons of pumping stuff. But what about these moms in the middle who are breastfeeding and pumping and navigating a workplace? If that's you, that's exactly who I work with. So if you want to learn more about how to work with me and like get through all of this and have all the knowledge and support that you need, there's a link down in the description and we can schedule a call. I'd love to talk to you. Okay, the number 2 mistake that working moms make is waiting too long to make a back to work plan and figure that all out. I totally remember what that was like. It took me a while actually to figure out breastfeeding, and I was already a lactation counselor. So I was like, I kind of know what I'm doing, enough the basics anyway. It took me a while to figure it out. And then by the time I was comfortable with that, it was pretty close to going back to work. So I kind of just said, I'm just going to go back and figure it out. And that was probably not the best idea. I am seeing now more moms starting to research some of this stuff during pregnancy, but I know you have a lot to learn, right? During pregnancy, you got to figure out how to get the baby out. So you got to figure out labor, birth, all that stuff. And then you got to figure out breastfeeding. So that's usually where people prep during pregnancy. But on maternity leave is a great time to start tackling, okay, when and how do I introduce a breast pump? How do I prep to make going back to work as easy as possible? And I usually see that my advice on the best time to start planning for all of this is once you're feeling like breastfeeding is going pretty well. Okay. And that's usually about like 4 to 6 weeks postpartum, somewhere in there. Hopefully you have at least a 12-week maternity leave. I mean, this United States is the worst at maternity leave. So if you have shorter than that, then you got to start thinking about it sooner. But if you've got kind of the standard 12 weeks or maybe even a little longer, go ahead and figure out breastfeeding first in the first few weeks. And then that's the time to start figuring out, okay, when do I start pumping? How do I start doing this? How do I start prepping? And that is the perfect place to talk to me if you're right there. But again, everybody's different. Some people are super planners and they like to tackle it all in pregnancy, and that's awesome too, if that's you. I'm a really big advocate for giving you what you need when you need it. Okay. So actually just the other day I was talking to one of the moms that I was working with, and she wasn't quite feeling comfortable breastfeeding yet, but she was thinking like, I should be pumping. I should be doing something like this. And we decided that let's tackle that in a little bit. We have some time. Just focus. Your brain can only take so much. And early parenthood, there's a lot going on. So it just depends. Everybody's different, but some people get the hang of stuff really quickly, or they're really excited to try their pump. And then we can talk about introducing that a little bit earlier. So everyone's just so different. And I encourage you to be conscious of where you're at mentally. How are you feeling? Don't overwhelm yourself with stuff that you don't need to at that time. Does that make sense? If you're 4 weeks before going back to work or sooner than then, you need to start coming up with a plan. All right. Don't wait a lot longer than that. That's, I guess, my final say on there. But the number one mistake that I see working moms make is not finding support. Now, I know what you might be thinking, because I remember thinking the same thing as a first-time mom. I can do this by myself. I actually don't even really want help with this. I can do it. And I was already trained as a nurse and lactation counselor, and I still did not meet my 1-year pumping goal. We were still able to breastfeed, but I was not able to pump enough at work to meet his needs. I almost was, but I was so frustrated that I did not understand. I had a schedule, I had a pump. Why am I not making enough for my baby? Why am I having to supplement with formula? He got like 1 bottle of formula a day or something, which is fine. Like, no judgment. But for me, it was really, it was frustrating. right? That was my first baby. And seriously, I should have found someone to help me, right? There's more resources now than there was for me about 8 years ago when I was doing that. So learn from this. Do not make this mistake. Find someone that can help you. A lactation consultant that is trained in pumping, okay? Lactation consultants don't actually get training in pumping. So you have to find one that has experience with pumping and how to do that, right? Find a working mom support group, a working mom group that can help support you, give you ideas on how to make work life work, right? If you're a nurse, talk with other nurses. How are you making this work? If you're working night shifts, talk to other moms on night shifts. Find a local group if that's something that interests you. Maybe there's a breastfeeding cafe somewhere, or as a working mom, I know that's a little bit more impractical because you'll probably be working soon, but on maternity leave especially, that can be great. Don't make this harder than it needs to be, right? There's a blueprint out there that can help you get to where you want to go. So there's no need to reinvent the wheel here, and learn from others' mistakes, right? And make it as easy as possible on you. I really care about your emotional health and well-being, right? I also really care that you are happy and that you meet your goals. And even if you have to readjust your goals a couple of times along the way, that's fine. I really want you to feel good about what you're doing and to look back on this experience in a really positive way, even if it didn't go exactly how you planned, which if you're already into motherhood, you probably know that a lot of motherhood is like that. Pregnancy, labor, birth often doesn't go exactly how you planned, but having the right knowledge, the right support, being able to make your own informed decisions and doing everything you can really can lead to an overall positive experience versus an overall negative experience, even if the end outcome wasn't ideal. So please comment down below and tell me which of these mistakes you found the most interesting. Hopefully not the ones that you've done as well, because I hope that we're catching you early and you can avoid all of these things, but we're all in this together. You can check out this next video and let me know if you think of that one, but I would love to talk to you if you're interested in working with me. We can see if we are a good fit and if I can help you get to where you need to go. All right, I'll see you on this next video. Bye.